You know, 2020 was one of the most difficult years of our life. And I'm looking at 2021 as one of the most greatest years of my life. And it's a year of possibility. And it means letting go of the stuff that's in the way. And so I am covering some things in this series of things that I feel are in the way for us, things that have been in the way for me, and how we can let go of them so that we can know Jesus on a more intimate, personal level, and we can also help to make him known to others who are trying to find him. So let's get ready for Let Go, and let's discover all that God has for us and helping others to find it as well. Hey, it's wonderful to have all of you guys and women today. Welcome to Sanctuary. We're so glad you're here. And you know, we seek to be a place where anyone can belong and everyone can make a difference. So it's wonderful to have Isaiah's house here, and we welcome all of you to Sanctuary. And today we're going to hear a message from Chad Helm, the outreach director from Isaiah's house. And he's going to be talking about, you know, how chains were unshackled and how he's been set free. And he's going to be connecting a verse that I spoke about last week, Romans 4:8. Blessed are those whose sins the Lord will never count against them. Blessed are those whose sins the Lord will never count against them. Such a powerful verse. So we're going to see a short video, and then Chad is going to be up and bringing the message, and I know it's going to be great.
Hey Chad, this is Morgan. I was just sharing your podcast with a couple of friends and my wife, having a birthday dinner, and we were talking about the judge who dropped your charges. And my friend Kitty, that I want to introduce you to, she made a very powerful statement that came to her as she was listening to the story about your dropping the charges. So I want to introduce you to my friend Kitty.
Hi.
So this is Chad that we're talking to. So okay. Kitty, tell Chad what came to mind when you were when you heard about the charges being dropped.
Yes. So basically, I wish we lived like that like we live life like that every day, knowing that our charges are dropped by God, because I thought about all of the things I've done, and then the judge who dropped your charge, you feel like so relieved. I wish we lived like that every day, knowing that all of our charges are dropped. It makes me, thank you, Chad, for your testimony.
What? Mind is blown, right, Chad? Hey, we love you, buddy. Thanks for being real and raw.
Thank you, Chad.
Talk to you shortly.
Let's welcome Chad.
Good morning, everybody. Well, first off, I got to say that praise and worship music got to me. You know, and I had a sermon title that I was going to choose to speak on. And those of you that know that God can often change our direction and our heart on the drop of a dime. And so I had a special thing that I was going to do. I'd been preparing for a week and a half. And then all of a sudden, I started getting these text messages on my phone. And it was in a group chat with some people that I work with. And it started talking about our podcast that we're doing for work. And it started talking about something that I recently just experienced. And, you know, I'm all about keeping it real. And I'll tell you this, before I get started, I'm an ex-drug addict. I'm in recovery myself. I was a heroin addict for 8 years, meth addict, crack cocaine addict. And the list goes on and on and on. I'm coming up on 3 years clean and sober, and God has turned my mess into his message. So I had charges pending from 2015, facing up to 30 years in prison, 6 to 30. I get a letter in the mail a couple weeks ago saying, Mr. Helm, you need to report to court. And in that letter, it showed that I had pending prison or jail time. I'm coming up on 3 years clean and sober. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I know that my heart is sincere and pure, but yet they're wanting to lock me up. But see, just because we get clean and sober doesn't mean that our past doesn't catch up with us. Doesn't mean that life's going to get easy. But I can tell you this, I told God, laying in a hospital bed after my overdose, I said, Father, whether you send me to prison or you set me free, I will serve your kingdom right where I'm at. So even though I got that letter saying that I possibly could go to jail or prison, guess what? Freedom starts on the inside, not externally. So I knew that no matter whether he locked me up or he set me free, I was going to be fine. Because I've had that change inside. I'm not the same person that Chad used to be. I'm not that stigma of a drug addict. So I end up getting a message a couple days later in this group chat, and I had just previously told everybody about my court experience, right? Let me backtrack. So I go to Illinois, I go to court. I stand in front of the judge, and the judge says, Mr. Helm, I was going to sentence you today, but I want to review some things. He says, I'm going to put your court hearing off till tomorrow morning. This was on a Thursday. So I leave, and the next morning on Friday, I go to court. And I stand in front of this judge, and I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared, because I knew that God had me. So I stand in front of the judge, and he says, Mr. Helm, in the last 30 years of me being a judge, I've not had the opportunity to do this. But today I have the opportunity to dismiss all pending charges, sentences, and cases against you. Throw them out. Come and see me in 5 years, and we'll work on getting you a pardon. But when he said that, here's what I said to myself. Well, Chad, here's the real test. Because a lot of us, we fake it till we can make it. Or we do things just to get out of trouble. And then we get out of trouble, we say that foxhole prayer, God delivers us out of the situation, and we go right back to our old ways and habits. So I'm driving home, and I go to work, we do this podcast, and I ended up getting this message. And it was from Morgan. He's the human resource director of Isaiah House. And the lady her name is Kitty, I thought it was going to be a joke when he said, I got Kitty that has something for you. So I finished watching the video, and it totally turned my whole entire sermon. So today the title of my sermon is Unshackled, Charges Are Dropped. So I want to ask you a question. A lot of us, we've accepted Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. A lot of us have surrendered our lives, or at least we say we have. But then a lot of us aren't really sure. We still battle. We're torn between, is God real? Is Jesus real? I'm here to tell you He is real. I'm not perfect by any means. I do things wrong every single day that I shouldn't do. But guess what? My charges are dropped every single day, and I'm unshackled. God accepts us just the way that we are. And I told everybody before that I talked to that was coming to this service, I said, you know, I got a feeling. I said, this service is going to be different than any one that we've done before. I know that God is going to be in the midst of this, for one, because a lot of you guys from this church are in recovery. A lot of you guys have been on the streets and in the pit of hell. A lot of you guys have eaten out of the dumpsters or went to the food banks just so you can survive because you spent your disability check or your last paycheck to get that next fix. So I want to ask you a question. If you question God and you're stuck on not knowing if Jesus is real, are you ready today? And as I preach and as I go through this sermon, I want you to think about your life and reflect on it. And I know a lot of us often ask, well, what's the cost? What's the cost? What's the cost? I want you to turn to your Bibles in Mark chapter 5, verses 1. And as we read, I want you to see that the reward overpowers any cost. And I want you to see, as we read this, you're going to see a guy who is demonically possessed. And I want you to pay attention to what Jesus has done in his life, just like he'll do in yours. So Mark chapter 5, verse 1. When they arrived at the other side of the lake, a demon-possessed man ran out from the graveyard. Just as Jesus was climbing from the boat, this man lived among the gravestones and had such strength, and whenever he was put into handcuffs and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the handcuffs from his wrist, and he smashed the shackles and walked away. No one was strong enough to control him. All day long and through the night, he would wander among the tombs and in the wild hills, screaming and cutting himself with sharp pieces of stone. So I want you to listen to that. And it explains to you how he would go through the nights and he would scream and he was demonically possessed and all these things tormenting him, right? Just like a lot of us have in our life. We can be set free from drugs and alcohol, but we still have the bondage and held captive inside our minds to these invisible prisons. A lot of our kids or some young adults cut themselves to take the focus off that hurt that's inside of them. A lot of our kids in schools today are being bullied every single day. And they're so scared to go to school and they put on this facade and this mask. Young girls are being prostituted out. Some of us in this room probably were one of them people. I know I was. Before we read further, I want to pause for a minute. Those of you that know the story of Jesus in the boat to Galilee. You remember that storm that came? And you remember the ones in the boat that said, Jesus, Jesus, please calm the storm. The storm had threatened to destroy them. But when they cried out to Jesus, Jesus did what? He calmed the storm. A lot of us have used different substances or different things in our life to numb the pain and to keep us from having to actually experience life on life's terms. I was looking at Facebook the other day, and I saw a post, and this is the third time I've seen this in the last 7 months, but it shows this guy walking into work, and he's got a smile on his face. But then when he turns his head, it's hollow, and you look, and it's a man sitting like this. The reason why I say that is because a lot of us wear a mask. When COVID came out, I was actually happy at first that I got to wear a mask because I have insecurities that I battle each and every day. But a lot of us have worn a mask our entire lives. A lot of us can walk in with a smile on our face, but we're suffering in silence and dying inside. But just like in the Bible, just like Jesus on the Sea of Galilee, he can calm the storm in your life. But you have to surrender. You have to quit trying to do it on your own. You have to quit saying, well, I got it. Because you don't, because there's going to become a time where you don't have it, and you're in a desperating time to where he's the only one you can call on, if it's not too late. So as we read, I want you to think about your own life. Ask yourself, what storms are in my life? What storms do I need God to calm for me? What storms have I tried? What battles have I went through and I just can't deal on my own no more? And as we read further in Mark, you're going to begin to see that the demons themselves will answer the question who Jesus really is. Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. When Jesus was still far out on the water, the man had seen him and had run to meet him and fell down before him. Then Jesus spoke to the demon within the man and said, "Come out, you evil spirit." It gave a tremble scream, a shrieking. "What are you going to do to me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? God's sake, don't torture me." "What is your name?" Jesus asked. The demon replied, "My name is Legion, for there are many of us here within this man." Then the demons begged him again and again to not send them to some distant land. Now, as it happened, there was a huge herd of hogs rooting around the hill above the lake. "Send us into those hogs," the demons begged, and Jesus gave them permission. Then the evil spirits came out of the man and entered the hogs and entered the herd, plunged down into the steep hillside into the lake, and they drowned. So let's pause for a minute again. So this demon-possessed man, full of sin, full of hate, full of pain, full of things taunting and torturing him, he sees Jesus and he drops down before Jesus and he says, "Please, please, what are you going to do to me?" And he cries out to God. And when he cries out to God, what does Jesus do? He delivers him. He sends the demons into the hogs and then they drowned. Just like our life, man. A lot of us are struggling financially. A lot of us are struggling with our marriages. A lot of us are struggling with our children. A lot of us are still battling active addiction. A lot of us have loved ones that have died recently and we don't know why. All we have to do is cry out. I know some of us would say, well, that's easier said than done. I got news for you. No, it's not. The herdsmen fled to the nearby towns and countryside, spreading the news as they ran. Everyone rushed out to the crowd, soon gathered where Jesus was. But as they saw the man sitting there, fully clothed and perfectly sane, they were frightened. Those who saw what happened were telling everyone about it, and then the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away, leave them alone. So he got back into the boat, and the man who had been possessed by the demons begged Jesus to let him go along. But Jesus said, "No. Go home to your friends," he told him, "and tell them what a wonderful things that God has done for you and how merciful he has been." So the man started off to visit the 10 towns and at the region and began to tell everyone about the great things that Jesus had done for him, and they were all struck by his story. So I want to say this. Jesus tells this man, "Go tell everybody about the good things that I have done." The reason why I'm standing here today is because I'm here to tell you about the good things that have been done in my life. And that started with a relationship with Jesus Christ. It started with everything being ripped away from me being at my low. And I learned something from a good friend of mine, Peevler, several weeks ago. We were at an event and he talked about, man, I don't believe in rock bottoms. And that's so true because all of us have a different bottom. All of us have different levels of pain. Sometimes that's 6 feet under. Sometimes that's ODing in the hospital. Sometimes it's going to jail or prison. Sometimes that's finally just having that spiritual awakening, sitting in your living room, realizing enough's enough. I got to change. So as the man in the scripture we just read, you can see how Jesus delivered him from the demonic spirits. He'll do the same for us. What better way is there to tell your testimony when you've experienced it firsthand? What better way is to tell your testimony when something's happened to you and you're able to physically show that to other people, not by your words, because words are cheap, but by your actions. I talk about this all the time. So many of us, we look for our purpose and we're like, God, what is it that you want me to do? Stop asking him what it is that he wants you to do and realize that you're in your purpose. I don't care what your job title is. I don't care where you're at in life. God's given you a purpose. I don't care if you have a day clean or you got 20 years clean or you've never done drugs in your life. God's got you right where he wants you. So use it. I was watching a sermon the other day and it says, it's hard to see the miracle when you're in the miracle. I said, whoa, hold on a minute. Because that's so true. Because we ask God to get us out of these situations. We ask God to fight our battles for us. We ask God to give us a revelation, understanding, and a wisdom to be able to face whatever it is that we're facing. But then when everything is all good, guess what? We don't even talk to God. Right? Just like the dope dealer. The only time you talk to the dope dealer is when you want to get high. But then the rest of the time, you avoid him because you owe him money. Right? Right? So I want to challenge you today. Every single one of us are going through something. And the reason why I talk about addiction so much is because addiction touches every single one of our lives. Whether it's somebody in our family, whether it's us personally, or whether it's somebody we know. But today is a day that them shackles can be broken. Just as Pastor was praying earlier, that you can be set free from them chains. And it doesn't just have to be with addiction. It can be the battle that's raging within inside your mind and this depressed state that you're stuck in. It can be the mistake that you made on your significant other and you're so afraid of that person finding out and it's tormented you because of a wrong choice that you made. It can be that story that you turned around to get back at somebody else and they lost their job because of you and now you feel bad. God's grace is like water that flows to the lowest part. Think about that for a minute. God's grace is like water that flows to the lowest part. God's grace is like water that flows to the lowest part. No matter what you have done in life, no matter what choices you have made, no matter what wrong turns you've made, no matter how many people you've hurt, no matter how many people you've lied on, backstabbed, stole from, maybe even shot somebody or killed somebody, guess what? Nothing can stop you from the grace and mercy of Jesus Christ. So today, as the band's getting ready to play, I want you to think about this, because not all of us are perfect. And not every single person under the sound of my voice is saved either. Some of us say we are, but the question is, are we really? Do we come to church on Sunday, then do we walk out the same person and go right back to our old ways? Because here's the thing. This isn't the church. This is the church. The church is wherever we're at. You are the church. I want to talk about the prodigal son. I was laying in my bed and I was listening to this song and it's called Just Be Held by Casting Crowns. And as the song came on, I remembered these cards I would get from my mother when I was inside prison. I did 5 calendar years straight in Chicago, Illinois prisons. I was raped my second week in prison. Top 7 teeth shattered. I was molested as a kid. I've lived a life of hell. But guess what? All that stuff that happened to me, that don't justify and give me the right to continue to go down the pit of hell when God's taken me out of the pit and brought me to the pulpit. God's given me a purpose today, and that's to stand firm and stand still and to be a voice for His kingdom, to share my story so other people don't have to die and suffer in pain. I'm the prodigal son. You are the prodigal sons and daughters. So if you're not there yet with your faith, as they're getting ready to sing this song, I want you to think about this. And towards the end of the song, I'm going to come back up and we're going to pray. And if something moves inside of you, I want you to come up here. And there's going to be people up here to pray with you. But listen, don't waste your blessing. Don't waste your miracle. If something moves inside of you, get your hind end out of your chair and swallow your ego and pride, and don't be afraid or ashamed to come up here. Right? Yesterday, I was talking to a guy, and I was venting about some things. He says, Chad, listen. We have to fix the upstream problems so we don't deal with the downstream repercussions. Chad, we have to fix the upstream problems so we don't have to deal with the downstream repercussions. So I took that internally. And I realized that, Chad, it starts internally. It starts with asking, receiving, believing, and surrendering.